so that everyone will be on. Okay, so what I wanted to do today is we're going to start out with a meditation, and this one it's a chakra meditation, and it's actually kind of written in the first person. So when I'm saying like I really mean like you're saying I to yourself. So you can just kind of pretend like my voice is inside of your head and you're talking, going through this meditation within yourself. So I wanted to start with that, and then we're going to go into some stuff that I think will help with where you guys are is so perfect, because you know what, like I said, when we set an intention that is bigger than where we are, we're going to go through some chaos to get to that frequency. And, and whether it's realistic to go to that, have that happen in 4 weeks or not, it kind of depends on what your intention was. But, you're going to clear out some stuff, and everything in you is going to, your body is actually wired to keep you from changing because it wants to stay safe. And so we're just going to go into a little bit more like in depth. I know I repeat that a lot, but it really is that mastering change is really such a valuable tool when we're going through the ascension process, because what it does is it makes us completely conscious of both the spiritual, the mental, but then the biological part of actually going through a shift. And, and this is just one shift that we're going to be going through, and we're going to keep going through them over and over again. If we can really master what it means to go through a shift consciously, it's going to make the shifting and our transcendence so much easier. So again, I say this every time. I should put it in the email. But if you want to get your third eye oil and do the little Star of David on your heart before we start the meditation, you can do that. And then if you even want to do your elixir and say your intention to, you can just say it to yourself. We can do that before the meditation. And before we start, I'm just going to call in the Council of Light to spread their love, light, and guidance. Surround us with 3 golden rings of protection. And we just ask that we hear what we need to hear and see what we need to see. And we just ask to be downloaded with the highest frequency for each of us, and whatever appropriate frequency that is for us today, to just help us along on our ascension and just bringing clarity and just fill our hearts with love so that we feel the connection to our divine and the light within us as we radiate in our home frequency. Thank you. It is done. Okay, so I'm going to start the meditation. Okay, this is a journey through the chakra system. I have chosen this moment in time and space we call now to take a personal journey through my chakra system. My intention is to shed frequencies that no longer serve me and become a pure vessel for divine grace. I find myself at a beautiful altar. This altar is taking up the entire wall in front of me, reaching from the floor to the ceiling. I admire the beauty of the altar. I get lost in the intricacies of the carvings in the wood. My thoughts start to slow down and peace begins to fill my body where my thoughts once were. I feel this overwhelming sense of gratitude inside of me, and I want to say thank you. Following my intuition, I kneel at the altar, knowing I am safe. I place trust in my heart, so that I may allow divine grace to flow through my body. My sweet child, we have heard your prayers. They have echoed through the space, as beautiful as church bells. We are so happy that you have arrived. Stay at the altar as long as you would like, and know that you can return at any time. Kneeling at the altar, I am ready to continue on this journey. I feel myself gently starting to be pulled forward. I find myself floating through the altar. I start to look around and find where I've landed. It is dark, but I feel secure and safe. The smell is comforting, like damp earth. The air is cool. I'm in a narrow hallway and have the sensation like I'm being pulled on a conveyor belt. I run my hands along the walls. They are textured and rough like pumice stones. Trusting my heart, I ask to allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns, to remove any analytical mind and judgment. This place is beyond words, and my mind would only be limited here. The Akashic Records, a cave. I'm inside a cave. This is where I landed, and when I crossed through the altar. I become aware of specks of gold shimmering in the darkness. Running my fingers along the wall, I feel wisdom flowing through my entire being. Focusing my energy on the specks of gold, I realize they are ancient symbols filled with sacred knowledge. The power of the codes of eternity radiate inside of me. The crown chakra. Up ahead there is a glow in the middle of the path. I'm not sure what the glow is coming from. My body stirs with excitement as I feel the energy from the white light. I arrive at the most beautiful and massive crystal I've ever seen. The glow of the crystal fills the dark cave with light. Instinctively, I place both my hands on the crystal. My energy flows out my fingertips and exchanges energy with the energy from the crystal. In a euphoric state, I make an intention. Please allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns to remove the concept of space and time as I know it. With my hands on the crystal, I stand in gratitude of the divine energy circulating through my body. The crystal has an indigo glow around it. Organically, the crystal starts to change shapes with a pulsating energy flowing through it. The shapes start to become symmetrical and smooth. I am in the presence of an indigo triangle. Following my intuition, I step inside the triangle. This feels more than just a triangle. Please allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns that hold me in linear reality. Within a breath of thought, my perspective expands and I realize I'm actually in a third-dimensional pyramid. My perspective is shifted into higher consciousness. I observe degrees around me without even having to move. I absorb every detail. I see the pyramid is made entirely of windows. I feel the energy of a pilot sitting at the control tower, gazing into space. My multi-dimensional vision allows me to see the energy connecting everything. My awareness goes to a cloud in the sky. As I exchange energy with the cloud, it moves towards me. Stepping out of the pyramid, I land on the soft, white cloud with blue iridescent glow. I feel at peace. Please allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns and clear interference that prevents me from knowing who I fully am. Connect me to the part of myself that I chose to come down to Mother Earth to be. Nestled in the cloud, I feel as though I'm lying on angel wings. I'm in my home frequency. A thought flows in and I hear a message. You can return here any time that you choose, and the thoughts effortlessly will flow out. I look ahead and see a green sphere in front of me. It looks like a planet. Please allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns to shed low frequencies that do not serve me anymore. As soon as the intention is set, I breathe in the most beautiful, loving energy. Love is pulsating through my soul. This love is too precious to not share. Playing with this beautiful love energy, I collect it and mold it into a ball with my hands. I place the ball in front of my mouth and blow my breath into the ball, asking for forgiveness to clear all karma. I gently blow the bubble into the air, knowing this love energy will ripple through dimensions with no limitations. I find myself in a beautiful green meadow filled with yellow flowers as far as I can see. I just feel so proud of myself that I followed my guidance on this journey. Please allow a breakthrough in my thought patterns and dissolve my ego. Clear all that keeps me separate. With intention, it is done. Overcome with joy, I feel a lightning rod with energy of the universal consciousness running through my body. The heaven opens up and I have tears of joy as a light rain starts to fall. I know there is a message in the rain. Please make the changes in my body that are necessary so that I am a pure vessel of divine grace. I am thankful for every drop of rain as it purifies my soul. My body becomes less dense and I feel connected to all that is. The light rain turns into a mist, and through the mist I see a light connecting heaven to earth. Knowing this journey through the chakras is coming to an end, I place both hands in front of my heart and bow my head in gratitude for this experience. As I bow my head to the light, I feel within I have merged with the light of universal consciousness. I have merged and created my own heaven on earth. I am home. All right. So wow, I just feel a lot of energy coming in. That's nice. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today is what it means to connect to our divine and let go of control. And I just want to start with this because a lot of the work that is that we're going to be moving into as we're like shifting in frequencies is the ability to create without really knowing what it is that we're creating. And that's when, we start to go into this biological response to resist the change. But before we go into that, I'm just going to ask a question and then you guys can just kind of sit with what the answer is for you, and then if you want to share it, we can. But the first question is, so if you can think about connecting to your divine and letting go of control, I want you to think about like what it feels like to let go and be in flow. Like what does that feel like in your body? Is there fear there? Do you feel it like in your heart, in your stomach? And then I want you to follow that with why you, like, because, you know, this is the human condition, is that we want to be in control. And so what I want to do is kind of like dive into like the root of why, like just to be like to observe within, like, you know, we all have our own reason. But, and what I mean by control is like with our intention. Okay, so I'm going to intend that, I'm trying to think of an intention that, so one of my intentions that I'm working on right now is that I can shift with joy, and instead of having to shift with always feeling like I have to try really hard and I have to know what's happening and I have to, and so that part where I just said I have to know what's happening, or I have to know what to do, or I just need to have the step 1, 2, 3, or, you know, I always try to find this place. And like what I'm not realizing is the whole time is all I have to do is sit back and just enjoy the experience. And then if I get a message to do something, I go and do it. But it's in my nature to want to go, 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 because I feel like if I don't do that, then the shift isn't going to happen, or whatever it is that I'm creating isn't going to happen. And so it's a real struggle for me to just allow that ease and grace to come and go to a place of joy. And so now it's finding, well, why do I have to have the 1, 2, 3 steps? And it's because if I don't, then I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And if I don't know what I am supposed to do, I feel like it's not going to happen. And then I go into a place of fear that I am not going to create what it is that I'm trying to create. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So do either of you want to do a little processing and find, like, if I actually go to the root of my fear, it actually goes full on into survival. And I feel like if I can't create what I'm trying to, then I'm going to die. Like, that's just like, I'm just so wired that way. It's either I have this or I'm going to die. And I know not everybody's that way, but for mine, it always goes to this place. And actually, at the very end of it, when I'm about to die, I have a program there that says that I was betrayed by my divine because I never had a purpose to begin with. And so that's and so if I don't have a purpose, then I don't exist at all. So that's kind of like where I go with mine. I like to share my processing because, you know, a lot of times we have a lot of the same kind of programs, but if either one of you or both of you want to process and find what the root of control is, like, this is a good time to go into that. It's totally up to you.
Oh, I definitely would.
Okay, yeah, it's a great one to go with. Okay, and that was Carol, right, that just said that?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, Carol. Okay, so first let's just go with just feeling like if I don't have control, what's going to happen? And so ask yourself the question, what's going to happen if you don't have control? And then feel in your body.
What's going to happen if I don't have control?
So do you have a sensation in your body when you say that?
My solar plexus takes on everything.
Right. Yeah, I felt that too. It's like that. And that's like, you know, and it's funny because that's right where your, your kidneys and your adrenal response is. So just because it goes to there, we're going to have a pretty good idea that it's going to be a primal, it's a primal response. So let's go into that. So you go into your solar plexus to just feel with inside your solar plexus and what if you were to put a feeling to that, what does it feel like?
Heavy.
Okay.
Like I can't breathe.
Okay. So, so if I don't have control, then the adrenal response starts. You start to, you can kind of feel your body going there to this whew. Okay. Okay. So you don't have control. Your body is heavy. You're going into adrenal response. So if you fully go into adrenal response and you have this anxiety and, oh my gosh, I don't have control over the situation, then what's going to happen? Actually ask yourself, what will happen if I don't have control?
What will happen if I don't have control? I don't know what to do if I...
Right. So if you don't have control, you don't know what to do. Okay. So that's the perfect answer. There's no wrong or right answer. So if you don't know what to do, then what will happen? Really challenge yourself to go there. If I'm out of control because I don't get to have control, I don't know what to do. If I don't know what to do, what will happen to me?
If I don't know what to do, what will happen to me? The word useless came up.
Okay, perfect. No, you're doing so good. That's so perfect. So if I don't know what to do, then I become useless. So if you become useless, then what's going to happen?
Then I'm not doing my part that I came here to do.
Okay, and if you didn't come here to do what you're supposed to do, what's going to happen?
I wouldn't be happy.
Okay. So now you're not happy. You're not here. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. And then what's going to happen?
Then I lose out on the joy and the experience of being here.
Can you go deeper than that? You're going to know when you get to the root. You're not quite there, but you're getting close. So if you're put in this third dimensional reality, you aren't happy, you're not experiencing joy, you're not doing what you're supposed to do when you're here, then what happens?
Then I shouldn't be here?
Right. Well, very similar. Yours is actually really close to what mine was, and that's it's almost like this sense of betrayal. If I am not creating what I'm here to do, then I'm kind of useless. Then what is if I have no purpose of being here, then I have no reflection of my creation outside of myself. And so really if you yours is a little bit different because I'm just kind of going down a little bit more, and there's going to be one that, and I'm not sure where it's going to be, if it's one or two down, but you're going to hit one that says that I'm alone. So I want you to feel that feeling of I'm alone. I'm completely, I'm the only human that's even existing on this earth. What does that feel like?
Terrible.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of going to that same place that I was talking about with me. It's almost this betrayal of oh my gosh, I came here to have this experience to spiritually grow and become more evolved and all this stuff, but at the root of it is, oh my gosh, I'm totally here alone, and there was no purpose for it to begin with. And that's the bottom line of the fear that's feeding all of it above it. So, but obviously that's not true. It's just that's the root of your program. So, so what you can work on this week is to ask to, when I was talking about the integration of those programs that are coming up, well, you just went to the root of your control program. So for you, it's, if I don't have control, I'm going to be alone. And then it's going to, like, my purpose here is like not going to happen. Or you can put it in your own words, like you just went through the journey. So you can kind of pick which one like feels the most charged for you. And so that's like, so there's your two, but in the middle is a place where, because actually neither is true. Like, because even if you feel like you have control, you still don't. And then even if you feel like you're alone, you're not. Or even if you feel like you're not doing your purpose, you still are. It's all just ego mind. So then, and so that's where we can bring in some of the stuff I had in the homework about doing the Ho'oponopono, or just asking for it to clear, bringing it up onto the New Earth platform, and asking that you evolve past, because it's just, as all it is like your ego creating a story so that you're not experiencing your New Earth experience. And so we'll go into that a little bit more, but I just, so that was perfect. You did awesome. And then Melinda, did you want to go through that?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, so we're just going to kind of, and I'm sure you were kind of like tuning in a little bit as we were working with Carol. So I want you to go to that feeling of like, if I don't have control, then feel it in your body. You're going to die. Yeah. Okay. So do you feel like there's something underneath that? If you die, what's going to happen?
That I don't exist.
Then you don't exist.
I'm nothing.
Perfect. And if you don't exist, then what happens?
I really feel this in my heart. Then there's nothing.
Right.
There's nothingness.
So if you don't exist, like I feel that in my heart too, and that's like when I say, like, I almost feel like a betrayal from my divine, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even exist anyways, and I just went through all this. But really, it's a betrayal. But really, what it is, this is such a powerful thing, is so let's just say, like, and this is true, everything that both of you just went through was all from the ego mind. And at the end, your ego mind said, I don't exist. And that seems scary to you. Because if your ego mind isn't in control, then it won't exist. So it's really what it is. It's the final death of the ego, because at that point you enter unity consciousness, and there isn't a need to exist anymore, because you're existing as everything. So
wow,
you can just
really
think about that. Yeah, it's really deep. So really what you're grieving, and what that fear and that sadness and, oh my gosh, I won't exist, that really what you're fearing is, it's this, your ego trying to hold on to being separate. And that's why I really wanted to go into like that our connection with the divine, because really that connection is about letting go of all of that stuff we just did with, if I'm not in control, I'm not going to have a purpose. Well, the only part of you that needs to have a purpose is your ego mind, because you already are living a purpose. Like, and that's what I'm talking about, like bringing it into the New Earth frequency, because you're already living your purpose. And the only thing that's saying you're not, or there's a fear that you're not, is your ego trying to keep you in this third dimensional matrix. So now I want to move in and I know I've said this before, and I'm just going to keep repeating it, because I say it in different ways, and the more we say it, the more our body starts to resonate in the frequency. So it's not even so much about the words that I'm saying, it's more about the frequency that's being delivered. So I want to go into, because we just talked about the ego mind, and your biological body is programmed right along with your ego mind. Like they work hand in hand. And the biological response is there to keep you safe. And, so it'll let go of these programs, and then the ego will come in and wants to keep you stuck in the third dimensional programming because that's where the ego feels safe. So the death of the ego is allowing yourself to feel unsafe, but doing it anyways. So recognizing that the thoughts that try to bring you back into the pattern that you came from is the first step of letting go of the third dimensional program. And this can be tricky because you convince yourself that, like so many times we'll say, oh, I'm going to change this about myself. And for the first couple of days, you're just all excited and you're getting into it. And then before you know it, you start to have these little thoughts that come in and almost convince you of why you shouldn't change. And it's just, and they're so subtle, and or you'll just have like a feeling, and you'll just kind of go back into those old thought patterns, and they'll suck you back in, and but there's a part of your body that's actually addicted to that because that's where it feels safe. That's like where it knows, this is what we know, and even if it's not a good experience, it feels better if you stay the way you were before you started to try to change. And that's why change is so hard. Like, it seems so easy in the beginning, and then so many times we'll fall back down is because of these biological responses that are connected to our brain patterns. So you can either stay in the pattern and dole out the feelings and the desires to be at a high frequency, or you can go through the uncomfortable feelings of your body trying to resist the change in order to feel safe. This is where consciousness comes in. We recognize the feeling and the thoughts that are pulling us back to continue the pattern and replace it with a new behavior. Okay, so this is a good example. So let's just say, and I'm just making this up, but let's just say one of your intentions or one of your goals or something that you're working towards this change, and is all you have to do is make this phone call. So you wake up, and that's your goal for the day, is I'm going to make this phone call, I'm going to connect to this person, and I know if I connect to this person, I'm going to start this really great journey ahead of me. And so you wake up and you're getting ready, and then you hear your mind is like, oh, but you need to do the dishes first. And then it's, oh, but you should do the laundry. And, oh, my gosh, I forgot. I need to go to the grocery store. And before you know it, the whole entire day has passed because your mind keeps telling you, oh, but you should do this first. You should do this first. And you totally listen because you're like, oh, yeah, that's totally logical. I do need to do the dishes. And then you realize the whole day has passed and the phone call was never made. That is the perfect example of your mind and your body taking over control so that you don't make the phone call to make the change. So where the consciousness part comes in is that you're realize that that's happening. This phone call is going to take 15 minutes and everything else can just wait. And so I have this thing, I can't remember where I learned this from, but so one of, and I might have written it somewhere else, but I don't know if I have, but you count from 5 to 1. So right when you have the conscious thought of, oh my gosh, I'm trying to keep myself from changing, and then I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when I get to 1, I have to pick up the phone and make the call. So two things is happening when you're doing that is just the act of saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're putting your brain into your mind into a different part of your consciousness, because you have to go to this place of okay, I'm super conscious. And by doing that, you're actually triggering a response in your brain to bypass the rut of going into your old pattern. And then actually following it with an action is going to start to create synapse responses in a different area of your brain of the part of your brain where you create higher consciousness. So there's a lot of reasons that you do it, but I absolutely love this one, because if you can recognize you're going into an old pattern, and even if it's like, you don't actually have something to do, it's just getting out of an old thought pattern, when you get to 1, do 10 jumping jacks, or go take a shower, go for a walk, like do something to interrupt the spiral of going down to the just old programming. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. So now it's just going to this place where we start to recognize, our thoughts, like around having to have control in order to feel safe, because we're safe already. And just recognizing that when we go into this place of not being safe, that's not really the reality, and we're just that's just like the spiral part. So it's being able to interrupt, and then it's okay that you feel uncomfortable. Like that's the most important piece. Like people think, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to set this intention and it's just going to be wonderful and I'm going to feel so great, and oh, I'm just going to connect to my guides, and and what we don't realize is that it's going to be uncomfortable because our body wants us to stay in the frequency that we're at, where it feels safe. And so it's just being willing to be afraid, to have anxiety, to feel scared, and then just keep doing it anyways. So unless you're physically in danger, you do it anyways. Like that's like my rule always. I'm like, whatever it is. And what it does is it keeps me from coming up with excuses of why I shouldn't do things to create the change I'm trying to make. So unless it's like actually going to kill me, I do it anyways. And that's like my rule. Of course, if you're not hurting others, it's all like, I'm talking more about like thoughts in my mind. Like I'm not saying go and steamroll over everyone to create what you want, but it's more about like, oh, I can't do that because they might not like me. I'm just making something silly up, but I don't care, I'm going to do it anyways. Or I can't do that because I'm not ready for it. I'm not mentally prepared, or I probably am not good enough. I do it anyways, and then I mess up, and then I learn from it. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about that. Okay, so now I wanted to do a little grid work around reprogramming the primal instinct part of the brain, and that's kind of like, Carol, where you're feeling it in your solar plexus, and we're going to actually like do so. So go ahead and just shut your eyes, and I want you to just kind of like see the back part of your brain. And then you can just see kind of like a little circle with a stem, and it's just like dripping. It has just, you can just see it dripping. You don't have to know. It's just dripping. And this drip, it's like activating and is connecting you. There's a little just line or pattern that's connecting to your adrenals and your kidneys. And so this is our primal instinct. This is where a lot of our thought patterns will come from in the third dimension. And so we're very aware of it. We're looking at it. We can see a color to it. We can have, you can see lines. Whatever, however you see it, just connecting to what that energy is. And now we're going to see in our mind's eye the same part of our brain connected to our kidneys and our adrenals in this pattern. But this part of our brain is fully connected into Divine Matrix. And then we are going to move the part of our brain that's in the third dimension, and we are going to attach it to the grid work of our same brain that is connected to the divine matrix. So just feel that happening. Just watch it happening. And we'll ask for assistance from the Council of Light to guide us through this. And we're just going to allow this reprogramming to happen. And we are bringing primal instinct into the new earth frequencies and reprogramming the brain to knowing what it feels like to be fully connected. Because when we're fully connected, there's no need for control. When we're fully connected, there's actually no need for even trust or faith, because we're fully into unity thinking. We are existing in divine matrix where there's no separation. And as this is happening, we're just going to ask that our body be cleared of all old programming and patterns that are connected to this primal response to keep us safe, to keep us separate. And where you feel resistance, let's just bring more light to that part of your body. And just knowing that this is a process and we are choosing this today. We're choosing to know what it feels like to live in unity consciousness and let go of the ego mind. And we'll just ask for assistance from our highest selves. And knowing that the uncomfortable feelings are just our body trying to keep us safe, and that we're going to do it anyways. And we're just going to ask that we be fully supported as we make this change. So I'm getting that this little exercise that we just did, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, reconnecting to that divine matrix. Is 7 days. So for this week, maybe it takes 30 seconds in the morning and just kind of visualize that and continuing to feel it in your body. How does your guys' body feel after doing that?
This is Carol. I could feel the energy in my head, but then I started feeling it on the left side of my jaw.
Okay.
So that's not part of it, is it?
I mean, it probably is. Like I said, there's no, everyone's going to have their own experience of what it's like to start, living outside of what it, that primal, it has a purpose. I'm not saying that it's not okay to have an adrenal response. In appropriate times, it's completely appropriate. But when it's not appropriate is when it's that adrenal response is coming out in parts of our lives where it's not needed. And so the left side of your jaw, keep going with it. It's probably clearing something there. And So don't get so stuck on like, oh, I'm having this happen. What does it mean? Like more just be like, wow, I'm just going to bring some more energy here, and then I'm going to go back to connecting to the divine matrix. I'm going to keep asking that my primal experience be a new earth experience, and that I am able to shift into unity thinking without fear. How about you, Melinda? What are you feeling?
I'll have to be honest, and I don't think I'm falling asleep, but I'm going in and out of, like I'm in this, it's like 3 different times now on this call, and all the other calls I've been present and engaged the whole time. For some reason tonight, I like go somewhere, and then I'll come back and go, oh my goodness, what happened? And
it's okay. It's totally fine. So just make that okay.
And then I'm thinking, I'm not sure what you asked, but from Carol's response, I feel like when you were maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago at the end of the last process, I felt myself get really light. And then when we just did this process, I feel like my whole chest has risen or vibrating even more than the last time. So I really feel it in my chest, and I feel it vibrating at a higher place than where I've been.
Perfect. So that happens a lot when really high frequencies, or you're going through this kind of shift where our mind has a hard time understanding what's happening, and we just kind of zone out. And so the work is still being done, but you're just not totally conscious of what is happening. And that's perfect. Just what you said is so perfect, because it means that you're having some really great work done on you tonight. So it's okay that you don't remember. Yeah, so it's actually completely fine, and so just keep going with it. So it's okay that you don't know. Okay, so I just have a little bit more that I wanted to just kind of go over. So I want to go back to that connection piece, like I kind of was talking about it at the end of the exercise we just did. And so it's, when we connect to our divine, we're letting go of the need for control, and really stepping into what it means to just kind of, like the last week we did the river meditation, and what it really feels like to, just really float down that river and not necessarily know where it is that we're going. And so just kind of recognizing, and when I was saying that, when we're fully connected and we're living in the experience of the new earth, there isn't we were saying, there isn't that need to exist, and in that existence is that we don't need to have a reason for why we exist, because at that point we're kind of in the part of the ascension where we're moving into, and this is I think I mentioned the steps of ascension in one of our earlier emails, but I'm just going to go over them really quick. So the first one is, the first stage is you're just completely unconscious. You don't know that you even have a choice. And then you kind of wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I realize I do have a choice. And then you go to this place of well, if I have choice, then I'm going to be my own creator, and you try to create all these things. And, and that's when we kind of have stuff come in, and we start to do our clearings. And then we move into a place where we move into kind of this trust and flow. And then trust and flow is where we move into listen and do. So it's not, oh, I need to create this. It's, oh, what am I supposed to be creating? and we listen, and then we go do it. And, and we're always moving up and down these scales. We're never like really in one of them. And then for me, the one that happens after that is kind of what we were talking about, is that, we don't even listen and do anymore. We're just functioning in that state of conscious where we don't even realize that we're listening and doing, because we're so in alignment that just existing is our creation. And so what I want to kind of like have you guys do this week for your homework is reflect on what it means to be a creator being. Like, what does it mean to be to create my reality? And then I want you to take that question even a little bit further, and I want it to be, what is the difference between creating in my third dimensional reality, and what does it feel like? And you don't have to know what it looks like. I just want you to feel in your body, what does it feel like to create from the new earth reality, and what are the difference in those, and how, and then play around with like bringing your home frequency into both existences. And that doesn't mean that you have to actually go out and do something and feel like what it feels like. This is more of just like an inner process of just bringing your attention to what those two different things feel like. Am I making sense when I say that, you guys?
I'm kind of out of it, and I had a hard time following that, to be honest.
That's okay. I'm going to put it in your midweek homework. So it's okay if like maybe you'll be able to read it, and we're at a really, really high frequency, Melinda, so don't feel bad.
I don't.
Like the work we did today is really, really good work. Yeah, I'm glad you don't. So perfect. How are you doing, Carol?
Well, I'm doing okay.
You are? Okay, good. Well, that's really like most of what I had. So do you either of you have any questions about the homework that was actually like in the email about doing the integration work, and just kind of like when we started in the beginning, just doing a little bit of the processing and being able to move past the programming of the brain?
I am like out of it, and I can't answer any questions.
You don't have to. Carol, do you have any?
No. What we
You're
did
so
tonight,
cute.
What we did tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. Can you say that one more time?
What we did tonight, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So, and then I kind of had I just had in the email that I think it came out, was it yesterday? Just about how I want this last week to be kind of integrating everything that we've gone over so far. So it's kind of finding that place of the victim, which is really what I'm saying is control, and then being able to bring it into our home frequency, connect to our divine, override the brain pattern, because we recognize we're in the brain pattern because we went to a higher state of consciousness, and then being willing to create from a place of not needing to know what we're creating and doing it anyways. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So that's kind of what I want you to work on is just, so the first step, would be, the phone call thing is just recognizing after you did the dishes and you did the laundry and now you're thinking you have to go to the grocery store that you're oh my gosh, wait, this is that part of me that's trying to keep me from changing, and you recognize it and you make the phone call anyways. So that's integration. That's integrating, because when you went into that place where you recognized you're connecting to your home frequency, and that's really where we're going to start to recreate our life is by bypassing the part of our brain that's trying to keep us from changing. And so that's kind of what I want this week to be about, is that when you recognize, and it's okay that you don't recognize it every time. We're not. That's why it's called evolving. Is the more we do it, the more our brain understands that that's what we want to have happen, and that's why, like, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or some of the other exercises I put on the email, like all of those exercises on there are all about interrupting old brain patterns and giving you the opportunity to create new ones. And even if you don't know what it is you're creating, that's almost even better, because then you're creating from the new earth, because you're not creating from something you already know. So that's what I want you guys to kind of challenge yourself to go through this week. And you don't even have to fully understand what's happening. Is all you have to do is just know that my desire is to not fall into, like for you, Carol, that I'm not living my purpose, and as we went to that control to whatever your final one was, and then for Melinda it was I don't exist, and then just knowing that those programs aren't the truth and doing it anyways.
Okay.
Do you have any, Melinda? I'm not even going to ask if you have a question. Did you want to say something?
I feel like I let go of my ego tonight.
Yes, that is giving me chills.
Like that first exercise we did was like so powerful for me, and immediately after that I felt so much lightness, and then whatever we did after that I got lighter, and that was my saturation point, and I couldn't do anything else.
Well, now you should go take a bubble bath and just soak in this frequency.
I can't do anything else.
Well, that's so perfect. Like, keep letting it integrate. Did you have something to say, Carol?
I have felt a difference this week. I'm doing more spiritual stuff. I've been putting off going to meditation at night at my church because it's always dark and I don't drive in the dark. But I made up my mind last week that I was going to go tomorrow, so I'm doing that.
Good. And so when tomorrow, before you go, if you start to hear these little thoughts trying to talk you into not going, know that that's when you want to do your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and do it anyway.
Okay. All right.
That's like the perfect example of like that part. Well, no, because if I go to meditation, I might actually bring in an even higher frequency, and I might actually change my brain, and that might mean that I'm going to change. And I should just stay home and watch a movie instead. No, you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go do it anyways.
I made myself a Post-it, so when I see that, I'll know what's here.
Yeah, no, that is like the perfect example of how our mind can come in and keep us from doing things to move into higher frequencies. So thank you for sharing that, because it was way better than my phone call example. Okay, well, do either one of you have anything else you want to process or talk about or have questions?
I'll listen to Carol if you want to do anything. I'm like done.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about, Carol?
I'm told that I've got a lot of issues with my brainstem. How do I go about healing that and not getting sidetracked by it?
Okay, so the first thing, do either a couple drops of your Ormus elixir, Or you could use their oil, but since it's kind of like the base of your skull, you probably don't want to put oil there.
Oh, okay.
So put the Ormus elixir, a couple of drops there, and just ask for it to be healed. And then this is what I want you to work on. When you ask for it to be healed, you're going to let it go, and you're going to give it to, the universe to bring in the programs that are needed to heal. So watch it, kind of like how I've been saying, like one of the most important parts of our healing is witnessing the healing happen. So the more you witness the healing happen over and over again, the better, because you're basically, by watching the healing happening, you're telling your brain that it's already happened. So practice with that, and then feel what feelings come in when you have to let it go. And like once it's done, you say thank you and you let it go, and just notice the feelings that come up around that. And because what we want you to do is to be able to get back to that place of being fully connected, and because in that connection you're already healed. So just feeling the connection with your high self and your high frequency connected to your divine as you're like doing this, and then make sure that you stay in, like after you do it, you watch it, you say thank you, reconnect to your home frequency, and then go about your day. And then that would be a great thing to ask to have the experience of having whatever's going on with your brainstem in the new earth, and not have to know what that means, but just ask to experience it from the new earth frequencies. And then we can kind of play around with that one maybe a little bit next week after you kind of go through that energy frequency a little bit. But like that, it's another part of that healing part is that you have the ability to heal yourself, and then playing with what that feels like to take on that responsibility, and because that is part of your purpose, is to claim the healer within you. And so just play around with those frequencies. And what I want you to do this week is every time you have a thought come up around either the resistance of it or a fear around it, I want you to write them down so that we know what we're kind of looking at, because next week we're going to do a little bit of stuff, but I always like to end with kind of doing what we did last week, is like clearing out any other programs that are, because I don't want to end you with having a bunch of stuff that's still hanging on. So we'll clear out anything that's like kind of still keeping you in resistance so that you can end with just a really clear slate to move forward from. So that would be great for you to have just being really aware of what your programs are coming into the call next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so play around with that, because when you ask for the healing, when the resistance comes up, that's what I want you to be aware of, to become conscious of.
Okay.
Okay.
Would
Perfect.
I do that
Thank you for asking.
Would I do that more than once a day in that area?
I think doing it once a day is perfect. If you want to do it every 12 hours, and because every 12 hours, because when you're doing that, you're connecting to a frequency that, and you don't even have to know what that frequency is. And that's the great thing about using the Ormus elixir, is it knows what it needs to do. So just trusting and watching the healing, and it is nice to introduce a frequency every 12 hours. Because that way your body will resonate in that frequency. It won't drop. So I think that's a good idea, actually. Why don't you do it, morning and night?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be exactly 12 hours, but, I say 12 hours, but really what I mean is like morning and night.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys did great. So let's go ahead and just put our hands on our hearts. Woo, just take in a deep breath. And we just ask to step into the new earth matrix and just absorb these amazing frequencies as we feel our connection to our high self, our home frequency, and our divine. Just ask for support as we let go of the things that do not serve us any longer with ease, joy, and grace. And we thank the Council of Light and all our spirit guides for their love and guidance and healing support in this session. And we just soak in their love. And then we bring our hands to prayer position. Namaste.
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 Thank you, ladies. And
thank you.
If I don't talk to you before, we'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week, everyone.
You too. Go enjoy your bath. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.